Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elevating Your Life. Paula Vail here, and another fun and informative show for you today. Gosh, what a blessing it is to have so many amazing guests join us. And today, joining us from beautiful England is Lynn Birkbeck.
Hi.
Lynn began his working life as a musician and record producer, and has now been a widely consulted astrologer for over 20 years. He is the best-selling author of Do-It-Yourself Astrology and the Astrological Oracle, the Instant Astrologer, and Astro-Wisdom, and lives in Lake District, England. So first off, Lynn, welcome.
Hi there. Hi.
So happy to have you with us. Well, I would love to have you share a bit more about your background and kind of what, brought you to write this fantastic book and share this information with others.
Sure. It began about 1972 when my girlfriend at the time, whose name was Stella, for Star, she was reading my horoscope out of a magazine. I didn't have really any time for it back then. But it said I was going to change my job, probably leave where I live, and probably end a relationship. Oh yeah. And they all happened as it happened. And so when I got to where I went to live in Wales, and I thought, what was that all about? How that happened. So I started to read up on it, and the rest is history, as I say. And eventually I met the person who wrote that horoscope, who was a guy called Patrick Walker, famous magazine astrologer of the time. And he said, yes, you'll be a famous astrologer yourself one day. So I'm getting there. But yes, Stella led me to it. The star led me to the stars, yeah.
Wow. And then that triggered you to study the astrology and become the expert that you are?
Yeah, I was always self-taught because back in the 70s, pre-internet, there wasn't a lot of resource available to learn astrology apart from a few books. So I use those few books and mainly how astrology works itself by observing people and events, and then comparing it to what's going on in the sky at the time. So I learned that way, which is the best way, but a hard way because it's very down to earth and practical.
Yeah. And I can only imagine how fascinating that must have been. It's like, okay, the stars are kind of saying this is going to happen, and oh my gosh, it happened. It went that way.
but the thing I was always interested in was not so much a prediction. It's more of what makes the future. What makes the future is you.
Yes.
Right? And it's the nature of the personality, which is the important thing. Because the personality can change overnight in some cases. Mm-hmm. So to try and predict what will happen to it is a bit of a trick question. Unfortunately, it is how astrology has been viewed largely by most people in the world as being a predictive thing. But you've got to know who you are. That's what it's really about.
Yeah.
Especially in these days.
Yes, I love in your book where you say dynamic interactive astrology isn't so much about what's going to happen, but it's about identifying the truth of your being.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually very exciting to know that we can do that. Tell us a bit more about
how that works. Yeah. Well, the truth of your being, the dynamic interactive astrology very quickly gets to that very thing. Now, most astrology books, and I've read a lot of them, I've written quite a few of them, they tend to give you character sketches, what various traits of personality are about. And that can actually blind you to the dynamic, hence the title of the book, Dynamic Interactive Astrology, the dynamic that makes the characteristic. In other words, there's something that drives a personality, right? And so you can, and all the planets will tell you what those drivers are, and it reveals a kind of obvious in a way. But the other thing I've done in the book, which is important dynamic of it, is when you work out or just simply quickly reveal these key phrases, because it's all based on key phrases. There's a key word for each planet and for each sign and for each house. And from that, we get a key phrase, which is your planet and sign and the house. And from that, I ask questions of the user, which make an insight, create an insight into what that phrase might mean to them. And it opens up a whole kind of galaxy of meanings and feelings and notions and ideas. Because human personality, in my view, is holographic. You only got to kind of tweak a bit of it. And another part of it will go, hey, yeah, I'm here. I know what you mean. I don't agree with that. Now, it'll set it off. And so the key phrases, the key words, the word key implies it opens up the meaning. It opens up the feeling. It opens up the energy that is you.
Yes, yes.
And some planets are more revealing than others. I mean, often a planet that reveals a lot is Saturn. Now, Saturn has a bad reputation because it's like, it's depressing, bad things happening to you. It's not really. It's also just about what you're learning. And if you think you're not learning anything, and you will have a hard time. And so, for instance, I use myself as an example because no one here around, unless you, Paula, are willing to, but I'm always willing. I'm very open. And so, looking at Saturn tells you what you're learning in this life. So I have Saturn in Cancer in the 12th house. And Saturn is learning. Cancer is, one of the key words is to feel. To feel. It sounds like learning to feel. 12th house is the house of karma. So learning to feel my karma. So the questions probe into that. What does that evoke in you? What does that give you? And yeah, I spent a whole lot of years learning to feel rather than just think. And then track the feeling back to a previous lifetime where I wasn't allowed to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all evoked by these key words.
Wow. And it's so true that challenges can be a learning, can be a process, something we're learning in our lifetime.
Yes. And people are strangely frightened of not being good enough.
Mm-hmm.
When really learning presupposes that there's something you're not good at yet. So that's why I find Saturn such an important planet, because it makes it clear that in life you're here to learn something. Yeah. And the dynamic interactive astrology will identify exactly what those things are.
Yes. Myself, I've always believed, no matter my age, as I get older, every day is an opportunity to learn something.
For sure.
And grow as a person. And it sounds like astrology is really a big tool that we can use in that learning, isn't it?
Yeah, I have to say it's almost the biggest tool because it's been around for a long, long time. Wow. And also it's based upon a reality, i.e. planets in the sky. It's not just a mental construct.
Yes.
And so it tells you an awful lot. I mean, you could, for instance, take Mars. Mars is often an unpopular energy because it's aggressive, assertive, warlike, pushy, right? But really, it's just a keyword, say, drive. So your drive, what is your drive? It's the nature of your drive. Well, again, use myself as an example. I have Mars in Libra in the 3rd house. So I have a drive, set Mars, Libra, to harmonize or reconcile. And the 3rd house is to do with words or communication. So I have a drive to communicate harmony, a drive to reconcile with words, which is what this book, Dynamic Interactive Astrology, does. It's all about the use of words to reconcile yourself with yourself, you could say.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And tell us more about the term the house. I mean, I'm fascinated by the houses, and I'm like, okay, am I in this house? Am I in that house? Tell us about that. I find it so fascinating.
Houses are always the thing that's baffled the beginner in astrology most of all.
Yeah, I'm baffled.
What they are simply physically is areas of the sky in relationship to the horizon, to the southern horizon. And so the far left-hand side of the southern horizon is actually the eastern horizon. So, and the area of sky, a segment of sky there, is the 12th house. So it's where planets will rise. The house below it, just below the eastern horizon, is the first house. And the first house, rather like the spokes of a wheel, each, or better still, an orange cut in half. It will have segments, okay? So the segment on the far left, the beginning of which is the first house, and the next segment will be the second house, next segment. And so back round to the beginning again, the 12th house will end where the first house begins, got it? So what they represent, the simple kind of mnemonic, is that planets are the what of astrology, what's doing the influencing. Signs say how, but the houses say where. Where in life is that qualified influence going to most likely manifest in your life? So my drive to reconcile mostly manifests with a third house subject, which is words or communication.
Oh, that is just, oh, I love that description. I'm going to think about that, the sliced orange. That really helps.
Yeah.
So give us some examples of the different processes or manifestations we may get in a particular house. That is so fascinating.
Okay, so again, it's like the keywords open up the meaning. So because it's the reader himself, him or herself, who will answer their own questions in a way. So take the 12th house, as you mentioned earlier, which is a house of karma. It's also the house of what's going on. The keyword is behind the scenes.
Oh, wow.
Right. So you can tap into what's going on in a person's life, which isn't that visible. Right. You can also, the 12th house is also symbolic of the womb, because the first house, which comes after it, is the house of birth. And birth represents or parallels the meanings of emerging into the present moment, your persona, your first impressions, given or taken. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So from out of the 12th house, from out of the womb, emerges the baby. So you come, I think it's Wordsworth put it in this wonderful poem, trading clouds of glory do we come. And so we come into this world with our karma behind us. So not everyone has a planet in the 12th house, but if you do, it's kind of a strong marker of what your karma is about. Me with 12th house Saturn, you could say I got heavy karma, because Saturn is like the lord of karma. So it doubles it up, the meaning, you might say. But every picture, every birth chart tells its own story. And the way I use the question in the book, it taps a person into the deeper meanings which they already have locked inside of themselves. But the key phrases or keywords unlock that meaning.
Yes, yes. So tell us more about the key phrases. You discuss those in your book, and the key phrases, that's pretty fascinating.
Okay, yeah. I mean, another key phrase, for instance, is my moon is in Aries in the 10th house. So I'll come up with a key phrase. What you do is you're given about 3 or 4 keywords to choose from, although there is a whole load of others when you're more versed in using the book, you can go to what I call the keyword clouds, where there's lots of keywords. But initially you're given a choice for 3 or 4 or 5. And so keyword for the moon is first keyword is need. Right, big word, isn't it? Need. Tells a whole lot of stories. And then Aries, one keyword is to win. So I have a need to win. 10th house is the house of recognition, of public acclaim, of public image, career, profession. So a need to win recognition. So that's very revealing. I said, yeah, I have this need to win recognition. So that goes on and on and on. And then we can get quite kind of psychological about it and go, okay, if I have a need to win recognition, can that be a bit too much of a driver? So it sets a kind of psychological train of thought in motion because these words are very dynamic. They don't just scratch the surface, which is, I mean, my own personality is very much influenced by the planet Pluto, which I have in the first house. Pluto is a planet of depth, of insight. So depth, and it's in Leo in my chart, which is depth to show or dramatize, Leo keywords. First house, self-image, persona. So I have a kind of, I dramatize by deepening, right? And that by my actual presence. And that's how I work as an astrologer. I get into a person, I get under their skin quite quickly because Pluto is a planet which probes and penetrates.
Wow. And so would you say so much of what we carry or what is part of us with astrology, it's so based on when and the time of day that we were born?
Yep, it is, because time and place is what it's all about. You know, I mean, I think I feel strongly about in these days of where, well, as I say, a lot of fake this and fake that. We live in quite a fake world, and so there's a great need for something which is true. And what is true is one's own being. That's why I call it the truth of being. And the truth of being is a power. It's not just a description. It's something it's there. It's alive. It's a life force. You know? So to identify the truth of one's being is what dynamic interactive astrology is about. It's aimed at doing that. And some people have said to me, "Oh, this is how astrology should be taught, because it just sets everything in motion automatically."
Yeah, yeah. I get the sense it's like, you know, we're a flower, and that it helps us bloom.
That's a very nice analogy. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. But sometimes you have to kind of tease the petals apart a bit. Because human beings, to quite a large degree, are quite shy of having their true self revealed.
Yeah, that's a good
And this is why the book can be also used to with another person or with a group, and so you can kind of bat it back and forth with one another and say, "Well, I think it means that." Then other members of the group say, "Well, I think it means that. Can't you see that's you?" That kind of thing, right? But it's self-revealing, and I think I have great faith in self-revelation. I think the world suffers because we're afraid of revealing who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going around in a kind of fog.
Yeah, and studying the benefits of DIA, I mean, I can just imagine the effects that can have on us. And then once we do have that flower bloom, or, you know, we grow in ourselves or become more open, I would think that affects everyone around us. How they
It
feel.
does. It does. That's the wonderful thing about it. See, I think astrology is the key word to describe astrology is truth.
Oh, love that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that that truth has been distorted by the powers that be, because astrology got kind of cheapened, I have to say this, by the kind of popular star sign, horoscope predictive idea of it. It kind of cheapened it, it weakened it, it disempowered it, because it became just another kind of opium for the people kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been quite a crusader, I suppose you could say, in promoting astrology as an avenue to truth.
Oh, Lynn, thank you for that. Thank you. Wow. And what's it been like for you personally, learning all that you've done and now all that you do for others? I can only imagine what that has done for your scope of how you see yourself and how you see the world.
It's a big question you give me there. Good one, really, really biting question, because some people say to me, "Well, you've changed my life for the better. You've opened the door I didn't even know was there." So, on the one hand, that can be very gratifying, but on the other, I have to watch my ego, because ego can get in the way of the truth.
Yes.
So I'm a Virgo by sun sign, and Virgos are naturally modest. But I'm Leo rising, which is a showy sign, and your rising sign is how you show yourself to the world. So Leo rising people are fairly showy, and so it's again it's an interesting combination there, just how I appear and how I actually am.
Yes.
There's a modest Virgo on the inside and the showy Leo on the outside. So it's a continual balancing act between those two qualities. And so, and some people are a bit absurd when they think, "Oh, I think you were Merlin in a previous life." I wish, or rather, maybe I don't wish. But on the other hand, sometimes I have to tell people things they don't want to hear. That's a tough part of the job, a really tough part, and I think you know what I mean.
Yes, yes. And I could see that in learning the DIA and learning more about your true self, you may learn things you had no idea of and you weren't ready for. I could see that. Yes.
For sure. And then we have the planet Neptune. Neptune is a wonderful planet because it's a planet of the highest and the best of life and humanity. But its flip side, its dark side, is illusion and delusion and disappointment and deception. And so when a person has a strong Neptune in their chart, well, where Neptune is, we'll say where your highest feelings may arise. It also shows where your greatest illusions may stem from. I have Neptune in the fourth house, which in my background is full of illusions because my father and my mother weren't who they said they were. So illusions, in the fourth house, illusions of family, very appropriate to me. But it's also my highest feelings, my aspirations, another key word for Neptune, also are born at home in my family.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is just so fascinating and really so exciting that what we can learn with this and your DIA, what you share in the book, it really is exciting. We are down to a few minutes left in the show, Lynn. Please share your website and any last words you want to give us today. Oh my gosh, I could listen to you for hours. This is so fascinating.
Great. Okay, so it's Lynn Birkbeck, that's LYNBIRKBECK, and the book's called Dynamic Interactive Astrology. And you can find out all about me and what I can serve you with on my website, which is lynnbirkbeck.com.
I love it.
That's all you need to know, really.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it.
Great.
What would you like everyone to think about today after hearing this fantastic information?
There is a truth to your being, that there is something that you can rely upon, that is the reason why you're here, amongst all the phony reasons why you might think you're here. But the truth, as the man said, will make you free.
Yes, yes. And I love that, because there is a reason for each of us to be here, isn't there?
And it's magical. It's magical.
Yeah.
It connects to something greater and higher than you can imagine.
Yeah, yeah. I absolutely love that. That is so fantastic. Oh my gosh, Lynn, this is great. And I want to share how I loved the layout of the book. And really, it's an easy pickup. It's like a read in a manual. And I just really recommend everybody check it out. And I'm gonna do more. I guess this is my year. I'm becoming fascinated, and I'm gonna learn more about astrology, because
Oh, one more thing. Yeah. You'll need your chart, but you can get it free from a website. So you're connected to that by the book to just get your horoscope free.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That is so fantastic. Oh, Lynn, this has been so great. I am just honored to have had you on the show and be able to share you with everyone.
My pleasure.
Oh, love, hugs, and blessings to England.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone out there, love, hugs, and blessings, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, dear.